Now we have been able to use the MySQLi fetch array method to fetch the data of the user that matches this criteria here, or this condition, this where clause we have in the select statement. So if the user with this email being passed through the email form matches the email in the database, then the data will be fetched. Now what we need to know here is what the password that is being fetched from the database is the encrypted password. So this password is the encrypted password, and what the user is passing through the form is just plain text. So if we try to just allow the user to log in, it's not going to find the data because they are different. The password we are passing here is plain text, while the one being retrieved from the data is encrypted. If we go to our database, inside the sign up table in the CRUD app database, we can find that the password that we have here is the encrypted password, but what the user is passing is plain text, and you can see that this password does not match this, so the user cannot log in. So what we need to do is we need to use the crypt method we used during the sign up, or we go to the insert.php here, that we use a crypt method. Here we use the crypt method to encrypt the password. In this case, we're also going to use another crypt method, but this time it's going to take this password that is being passed through the form and this one that is being retrieved from the database. So we are going to say password, a new variable called password, equal to crypt, which is the crypt method. Then we pass in this password, but in this case we just use this with the MySQLi real escape string. So we say pass, which is the first parameter. Then we pass in this one that is being retrieved, this encrypted password that is being retrieved. Now what it's going to do is it's going to encrypt this password as well. So without this, it's going to be difficult for the user to log in, because the password being entered into the input form and the one being retrieved from the database, they are different. So now with this, we can get we can send an encrypted password to the database. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to check that if the email being passed, or we use this, is equal to the email being retrieved, and also if the password being passed is equal to the password being retrieved. Then if they are equal, then the user should be able to log in. Otherwise, they will be alerted with an error message. So we'll say if we can use if email, which is this email here, if email is equal to the user email, which is this, and the password, which is this password that has been encrypted here, is equal to the password or the encrypted password retrieved from the database. So we paste here. So if the email the user is imputing is equal to the email that is being retrieved from the database, and the password being passed through the inputs field is equal to the password being retrieved, then the user can log in. Now in this case, we are going to use two things we've not used before. Recall that in the config file folder where we have the db.php, we created a method which is the output buffering. As I said earlier, that this will allow us to use headers in our scripts. We'll see how to use headers, and also here we set sessions. Now instead of us to just go setting sessions in every script, PHP script that we create, we just set the session inside the db.php file, so whereby whatever we call this file, the session will be set. So here we are checking if no session is set already in the file, then we should create a new session or start a new session. So if we go to our login, we are checking if the email corresponds to the one in the database and the password corresponds to the one in the database. If it does, then the user should be redirected or taken to a new page. We are using the header, and inside it place quotes and we place a location for it, location colon, then where we are sending it to. Where we want to send it to is, we want to send it to the home.php. So we type /user because we are going to create the home.php file inside this user folder. So we say dots, so we go out of the current folder that we are in right now, then into the user folder, then slash, we say home.php. So if the user's email and password matches the one in the database, then they will be taken to this home.php. And here we are going to set the sessions for the ID, the first name, the last name, the email, and the activation key. So we're going to start with setting the session for the ID. We set session by doing the $_ then session, then inside it we pass in the name of the column we have in the database. In this case, for ID, we are setting the session for ID, and we set it equal to this ID variable that we have here. We do the same for first name, so we say first name, for last name as well. Then for email, and we can set the session for the activation key if we want. We can say activation _key. I'll just copy this and paste it here. So with this now, once the user is able to log in, we set the different sessions for the different variables. So we set session for first name, for last name, for email, activation key, as well as the ID. Now I'll stop here because the video is already getting long. In the next video, I'll show you how we can call the session variables that we've already set.